There is a big knowledge gap in crypto right now, and I think it's getting bigger. Just look at the Democrats in Congress. They vote no over and over, right? Whenever we talk about making crypto the big deal in the US. We just had an election, and hundreds of people who supported crypto won, while hundreds of people who opposed crypto lost. We know that people in the US want this technology. There are people in Congress who are 65 years or older who don't seem to understand how important this technology is for everyone. Also, if the rest of the world is adopting crypto so quickly, what are we doing in the US? I don't know what to say. That's not something I can say. Like, is it because Democrats are trying to negotiate, or do they just not know what to do? Tell me what you think it is in the comments. Very fast, I bid on the Bitcoin shares ETF, which is the biggest and most famous ETF I can think of. It's also the fastest growing, with $115 billion in just the BlackRock ETF. Somewhat strange stuff. There is a lot of value moving through, and BlackRock is still buying. You know what happens when you put the same kind of pressure on an XRP ETF, right? Will it stay at $2 or go up to $5? Will it cost $10? Do you think the price will go up even more as there is less and less SCRP on the market? I mean, I don't know. See, they first give it to people with very large net worths, and then they give it to everyone else, right? We do know, though, that BlackRock, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, and other large financial firms are all putting all of their money into crypto. Here's another clip from Robbie Mitchnick, who works for BlackRock and is in charge of their DEX stake. Okay, I'll play this. What most people know is that DeFi could be the most important change in the blockchain and digital assets environment, right? In some ways, it's also the farthest area from being able to have widespread adoption. But unlike the early days of permission blockchain use cases or crypto, DeFi can affect every financial company in some way. Yes? Other than that, everything else has been a mix of chances and maybe dangers. Everyone in DeFi has to say what this means for us if it does happen. That's why everyone is listening. You just don't have banks and wealth managers yet. That point is coming up very quickly now. Regulation is going to be very important in all of that. But having all of the US authorities agree on something has been the most difficult task. This includes the OC, the Federal Reserve, the FETC, the FEC, and the SEC. I also believe that the Trump government did a good job of putting the right people in the right jobs. All I want is for more to be done to help US businesses. When this all began, they said they would focus on American cryptocurrencies. Since then, they've changed their minds and said, let's just focus on Bitcoin. I don't think this will help anyone except a few people who bought Bitcoin 5 or 10 years ago, though. I mean, not many people can afford to buy a whole Bitcoin these days. One more clip. While financial companies have worked on private blockchains in the past, the shift to public blockchains may have been caused by changes in the political and regulatory climate over the past few years. Yes, I believe the private blockchains have been judged, and the news is not good. That's where a lot of the traditional exploring in this space took place, especially in the early years. That was something that all the banks and some other traditions felt good about. But the track record shows that none of these private blockchain projects have been widely used in a business or economic sense. And I think that makes sense now, since a private blockchain limits the value proposition of blockchain's promise. So, public blockchains are becoming more and more important, even for traditional firms. They may not be focusing on them all the time yet, but that's the direction things are going. And we've seen some good regulatory guidance in the last couple of weeks that helps support the idea that this is now a good place for even US banks to be involved. It's really interesting to hear that these bigger organizations aren't really interested in private blockchains right now. It was also my goal to make it easy for you to understand the difference between public and private blockchains. I looked it up. Please give me a list of the most famous public blockchains and private blockchains. This is what was found. We've heard that R3 Corda is having a hard time getting people to pay for and use their program. That's why Corda has had to fire some people, and they're thinking about possibly cutting up R3 Corda and selling it in pieces. That was the end of them. It's interesting that IBM has its own Hyperledger fabric. You can also talk about Quorum, Hyperledger, and Sawtooth. Bevel, that name is cool. And then Taurus, a chain that is open. I've never even heard of these two. When it comes to the most well-known public chains, there are Ethereum, Bitcoin, BNB, Solana, Cardano, Polkadot, Avalanche, Stellar, Tezos, Cosmos, and of course the XRP cord. It was interesting to see what it came up with. That being said, I hope that was useful. Also, this video clip has been seen by everyone. I have a lot of other things to do, so don't go anywhere. House of Brad Garling. I got more Robbie Mitchnick stuff. Let's play this to get a feel for BlackRock's mind. He's telling us where this is going. This video clip is something I play a lot, but it has something to do with what we're talking about here. BlackRock knows how digital assets and tokenization have changed over time. They wish to be one of the biggest groups. They'll be one of the most important ones. If some kind of relationship with Ripple is announced, just think about what that could mean for the X price. Makes the whole environment different. Ask me today where I think most of this value will end up, and I'll give you a few ideas. That's it for now. I think you'll see a lot of this worth on Har, Algorand, the XRP Ledger, Stellar, and Anando. That group of people seems like it will be very important to the tokenization project. After that, Brad Garlinghouse gives hints at a link. I'll play this for you. So you'd be okay with an XRP ETF? We would definitely be open to it. And I think it's likely that there will be a lot of different ETFs based on different tokens. I think you might even see ETFs based on baskets, which would further spread out the risk. Aside from BlackRock, are you in talks with the biggest lenders to get this done? I'm not going to say anything about that though. BlackRock has said some things in public, I know that. Well, we believe it is best for the X group as a whole. In fact, before the SEC lawsuit, XRP was the second most valuable digital asset. But since the lawsuit, most of its problems have gone away. Long term though, these issues are about how to make these different digital assets useful and really help solve problems in the real world. I believe we've seen that over the last few months as the XRP ledger and XRP as a coin have become clearer. These days, more and more businesses are moving forward with their own strategic stocks. I want you to understand this now. No matter how big or small the business is, every bank and credit union will want to set up some kind of strategic backup here. It won't happen all at once, but as more businesses do it, it will become the standard. As more digital assets are needed to support all of these different digital asset strategies, this will lead to a big turning point in the coming days. There is a lot of demand that has been building up, and when things become clear and regulated, people will know it is safe to participate in the ecosystem. When we get to that point, I think that will be very strong. We're not quite there yet, but if Congress can come up with crypto regulations that work for everyone, that will have a huge effect. Okay, here's one more clip. 37 seconds, Robbie Mitchick. I have a few more things to add before we end. Okay, and then you can look at Hidden Road, Ripple, Hidden Road, BlackRock, which is built into Coinbase International, OKEx, Durbit, Bitfinex, Bullish, AsianX, and 6 digital exchanges, one of which is Sweden's digital exchange for different assets. Then there's Michael Higgins, who is the global head of business development for Hidden Road, and talked about how important it is to use BlackRock's build tokens as collateral spelled. This makes you wonder what other ties Ripple already has to BlackRock, and BlackRock knows how important XRP will be to the new financial system. I believe they were just waiting to make sure everything was set. It seems like they are waiting for BlackRock customers to start asking for these items. You should go to BlackRock or any of these other places that haven't applied for an XRP ETF yet and ask them when they are going to do it. There may be other people calling about the same goods as you if you can let them know you're interested. So don't put pressure on them. They will get that thing because they know that if they don't, you might take your money somewhere else if enough people call and ask for it. And they really don't want that to happen. You also have Ripon, or Ripple, Rexperp. A person who used to work at Goldman Sachs is now the sales head at Ripple. This means that a lot of these big banking institutions work together. Additionally, I would like to talk about the links that Perplexity was able to discover between Ripple, BlackRock, and Ripple. It talks about a possible XRP ETF partnership. We've talked a lot about that. I no longer need to talk about that.